Chapter 2. Oatmeal pumped his arms and legs as hard as he could, wet palm fronds whipping at his face as he propelled his body forward with the final remainder of his ability to sprint. The motions of his body were fine-tuned, automatic, like a machine of muscles and fluids carrying him further down the dirt path. It was still several miles to the furthest fence. Tiny spots were forming in the corners of his vision. He forced his body to decelerate and look back over his shoulder. He had lost sight of Meat Mugger at least a mile ago. A soldier knows his environment, just as a soldier knows his gun, his role, his body. The optimal route to arrive at their destination coordinates was the dusty path. It snaked and curved around, but it was made of smooth dirt and everyone knew it was best. Meat Mugger had wanted to drive a straight line northwest through the trees. The two soldiers had decided to settle their dispute with a foot race. Whoever made it to the drunken forest first would assume leadership of the mission. The path made one final sine wave through the familiar jungle before entering the drunken forest. These grounds were mostly unknown to soldiers of Grizzly Battalion. Terra incognita. The soft dirt of the dusty path became lumpy and uneven. Oatmeal's boots pounded over craggy, spurting hillsides where trees grew at odd angles. It was a nauseous feeling, almost like altitude sickness. A soldier knows no fear. Meat Mugger claimed that these boony lands were once covered in ice. As the ice melted, the forest's growth was disturbed from vertical alignment by inconsistent soil. Oatmeal growled at this thought. He could care less why the drunken forest was as it was. Like all boonies, the forest was here to house the animals, the dinosaurs, the bugs, and all the other creations of the gods. Anyone who tried to think differently needed to get their face beat in. Oatmeal had been instructed well. He had zero tolerance for curious or silly bear thoughts. Not even if the thoughts were his own. He was a soldier. This was to be a highly dangerous special assignment. Not in particular due to the monsters, but because of Meat Mugger. Dumb old, silly old Meat. He was a liability these days. There'd been a time when he was strong. He had been made Unit Alpha. For weeks now, Meat had been showing familiar signs which all too often foretell the end of a soldier. Meat was interested in imaginary things such as, say, do you suppose the world is square or circular? And, if all we know of the sky god is the sky, then how do we know there's a sky god at all? These inane riddles spilled from his mouth at all odd hours. He had lost touch with reality, with the immediate things around him like magic and monsters and protocols. Oatmeal had tried to tell him, soldiers start acting this way and snap. One day you just disappear. It happens all the time. The role of a soldier is to be vigilant, mindful, not to think about everything. "Aw, damn it," Oatmeal thought. "Now I'm doing it." Meat's condition was something you could catch. As the soldiers all knew, avoiding crazies and silly bears was imperative. In spite of Oatmeal's protests, the people upstairs had ordered him and Meat on this special assignment. As with all dealings concerning the people upstairs, the reasoning was best left to mystery. The role of a soldier was to obey. Oatmeal had begun sprinting again, clear up a steep hill, clutching the body of his assault rifle and laboring against the jerky motions of his pack. As he reached the top, black spots were closing in around his field of view again. In desperation, he stopped running and brought his head down between his knees. As he did this, there was a disturbance in the bushes, the telltale swish and parting of plants. Expecting a monster, Oatmeal whipped his rifle to the ready, but realized too late that it was only a stone. The stone had descended a parabolic arc into the bushes from somewhere behind him. Before he could turn to look, he received a powerful kick from behind and fell flat on his face. "Thought you lost me, eh, Gromlicker?" Meat said, chuckling. "You cheated," Oatmeal shouted. "You can't abandon your backpack, you fucking show-off. What path did you take?" Meat laughed. "You never told me there were rules. I figured a straight run had beat your zigzagging path, and I was right. I got here first." Oatmeal stood and raised his fists awkwardly around his rifle, but old Meat shoved him right back down. "Forget about it," Meat said. "Take a look around." This far out in the boonies, we'd better not waste our fight on each other. True, Oatmeal thought. Although a soldier fears nothing, he had been on the lookout for monster signs all along the path. Thus far he had only seen common beasts, such as quail, zebra, and an archaeopteryx, shot from a tree-limb perch like a flash of blue and purple upon hearing his footfalls. Tree spiders had threatened to trip him up in places, and a startled chimera spit at him, leaving a brown stain on his pants, but there was no trace of the invisible ones. They're probably waiting for the night dark, Oatmeal remarked. Meat sat down and was already digging around in the pockets of his brick-red camouflage pants. His breath was racing. It soon fell to Oatmeal's level, and then slower, the air falling deep into his abdomen as he unwrapped a tube of GZE summer sausage rations. This is pretty cool, Meat said. We've never been out as far as the Drunken Forest on our own. Cool? Oatmeal squealed. Are you insane? This is monster country. Deep boonies? Terra incognita? The higher-ups probably want to kill us off. We got no backup. It's just you and me. And the golden ox, Meat added. Goddamn bastard, Oatmeal agreed. Now how in the hell are we going to find an animal like that out here? If there even is one, Meat countered. Oatmeal spat. Of course there is, you grinning fuck. Our orders were clear. The sooner we find that beast, the sooner we can go. Go? Yes, go. Back. Go back? Go back home, to the barracks. If you say so. Meat shook his head. His smile stayed firmly in place as his eyes glazed over to the usual set of grayish-green marbles, and he began munching on sausage. We may have to camp out here many nights before we achieve our objective, you realize. I'd rather not, Oatmeal said immediately. I've got other shit to do. A soldier knows no fear, but Oatmeal had no experience camping in this small of company. Even in a crowded tent, he could never sleep a wink surrounded by all the darkness and wilderness, teeming with the invisible ones. On the other hand, he considered, they might not need to worry. It might not get night dark. The sun had tossed about from one corner of the sky to the other for several days. There could be several more days of endless twilight in the coming week. Oatmeal had no way of knowing for sure. The sun just did whatever she wanted. The role of a soldier was not to question, but to be prepared. Old Meat extended a chunk of sausage toward Oatmeal. What are you doing? Oatmeal demanded. Want some? Oatmeal eyed him warily and snatched it out of his hand, muttering to himself, I can't believe I'm stuck out here with this weirdo. We'll run out of food, and we'll realize you left the rest of your rations in your pack. Some animal got into it. Well, then I'll go and have a big fat animal to eat, right? Meat said, clearly amused with himself. You let me worry about food. There's nothing in my pack that I need. Oatmeal responded with the ugliest frown he could manage. Meat continued. So how are we going to approach this assignment? Seems kind of strange, doesn't it? What use would they have with a gold buffalo? Oatmeal glanced in the direction of a distant bird call, quail most likely, then returned his harsh glare to the soldier in front of him, calmly chewing. Who cares what they want with the damn animal? Oatmeal snapped. Maybe somebody wanted to make a burger, a real burger for once, instead of all this GZE crap. Meat said, maybe the people upstairs wanted us out here, away from the others. Why would anyone want that? Oatmeal demanded, instinctively rubbing his wrists on his groin. Are you fucking with me? Do you want me to bro-bros your gromhole right now? Is that what you're talking about? The higher-ups, Meat continued, unaffected. They can read our thoughts. I think they know we're onto something, and it's got nothing to do with our mission. Oatmeal shook his head. Like what? Huh? Old Meat stared back at him for way too long. You ever think about where we came from? Oh shit, here we go, thought Oatmeal. What do you mean? Came from when? I don't know, Meat said, rubbing his chin stubble with greasy fingers. But we should know. How far back can you remember? It doesn't matter. Remembering is useless. Someday you'll be sitting there remembering yourself remembering. It makes no sense. That's caseworker shit. It's not for us. Well, they're putting a lot of faith in us, sending us this far out. 2 men, alone. We could desert. Come to think of it, nobody ever asked me to be in this army. Do you have any recollection of enlisting? Oatmeal locked his knees, telling himself, don't get sucked into this bullshit. You're better than this. A soldier can rise against any odds. And say, Meat said, doesn't it seem kind of pointless anyways? The people upstairs don't need us to locate a buffalo. Whatever we might believe is going on here, I just don't think it's real. Oatmeal stared at Meat's chest, the tight muscles bulging out to fill the salmon-colored tank top. Finally, he jammed his mouth full of sausage, chewed a few times, and started shouting, I think you're the most fucked up, boring maggot in all of Grizzly Battalion, soldier. I think you need to grow some hair on your nuts, do a little more laughing, yelling, and fighting like everyone else, and pull your head out of your ass before you shit it out. You want your old friend back, Meat said calmly. Of course I do, Oatmeal shouted before he could stop himself. He stared at the other soldier, realizing once and for all that this was not the same soldier as the one from most of his happiest memories. Wrestling those horses, the tree fort, the stare without blinking contest which had earned Meat the rank of Alpha. It lasted nearly half an hour and ended with bro-bros in the mouth. Oatmeal resolved then and there not to fall victim to the same fate. A soldier never changes. The sky is usually blue, but a soldier is a soldier always. Oatmeal could still feel the dirt caked around his nose from being kicked to the ground. He scratched, still absently watching, as Meat allowed an ant to crawl over his hand and up his arm. Oatmeal burst into laughter. He's gonna bite you, stupid shit. The ant marched several circles around Meat's bicep, stopped in consideration, then turned to circle in the opposite direction. What do you know about ants? Meat snapped. You're a moron like everyone else. Oatmeal felt like he was making progress. He continued to push. What do I know about ants? Everything there is to know about ants. They're fucking ants. That one there is an emperor or giant army ant, worker, female, deep violet in color, 6-segmented legs with tarsal claws and large mandibles to administer acidic bite, thumb-sized, hardly a monster, not edible, definitely not an ox, so fuck it. What do you care about ants anyway, jackass? They work and work for no good reason, go nowhere, and then they die, and it doesn't matter at all because there's always more fucking ants. You know where this ant goes at the end of the day? Meat asked. I know where he's going right now, Oatmeal said. He flicked the ant away. It flew, ran a short distance, and began burrowing. She goes into the ground, Meat said, to all these little tunnels. Millions of tunnels, millions of ants, all gathered down there working away, each doing their own little thing. I saw it once. My assignment was to dig them all out over by the little creek. Oatmeal slapped Meat in the face, pushed him over, and pinned him to the ground. You need to learn your lesson today. Get down on your all fours, you little silly bear. I'm going to teach you to say dumb shit that makes no sense. The hell you are, Old Meat said, laughing in spite of the physical strain. He scratched a cut into Oatmeal's neck and forced them both to topple. But Oatmeal was already grabbing for his rifle. Meat kicked him in the ass smartly, the same spot as before, knocking him forward onto his chest, and then picked up Oatmeal's rifle and hucked it as far into the jungle as he could. That's my gun, motherfucker! Oatmeal shrieked through dirty blood plastered over his lips. So what are you gonna do now? You gonna bro-bros my butt, you big dumb old crazy? Meat climbed on top of Oatmeal and punched him in the back of the head until he stopped fighting back. When Oatmeal started to giggle with the high of pain and humiliation, Meat rolled away onto his own back. They lay side by side, heaving. Ouch, Oatmeal finally said, examining the shiny blood he had wiped from his face. Son of a bitch. I really hate you. He hadn't noticed the moment when one of his fingers broke. Thank the man upstairs for pain reducers and healing stones. He roared as he set the bone back in place. Even with the pain considerably dulled, it hurt enough to form a new layer of sweat on his brow. As a wind cooled his face, his body began to rumble with sweet, harmonious energy. The healing stones in his pack were already hard at work, remotely fusing together bone, replacing hurt with soft, fuzzy tingles, draining the swelling back into his body. He glanced up at the sun, felt his face blush with warmth and light. He hummed a long, clear note, opening his mouth into a vowel like a trumpet to the healing gods. Meat looked jealous. He was long overdue for an adrenaline fix and some tingles himself. Meat had not been jacked up in as long as Oatmeal could remember. Oatmeal gave him one last disapproving look. He sat reclined against a hump of grass, gazing back along the dusty path toward the great castle which loomed higher than the clouds even. Oatmeal refused to follow his gaze. Something about the enormous structure filled him with dread. It seemed impossible, looming over the landscape, like Earth was only a miniature model and the people were no bigger than ants. Sometimes he imagined the castle toppling over, with all the people inside. He had to remind himself that it was magic. It had stood for all of time and would continue to stand forever, because that was the order of things. Oatmeal shot a glance at the tower, saw where it penetrated the clouds and vanished. It felt like the soldier game where you stare down your gun barrel and see how far you can squeeze the trigger. The castle, Meat said quietly. Full of people we don't get to know, places we don't get to see. We have to live in the barracks, down below. Doesn't anybody wonder what's really up there? Everybody knows what's up there, Oatmeal corrected. The people upstairs are up there. Them and all the damn dirty prisoners. They're the only ones that can be up there. I want to be up there. Oatmeal burst out laughing. You can't just be something. That's silly. He locked his knees and stood, stiff as a post, changed his tone to the flat shout typically reserved for commanding officers. We are Red Zone! Grizzly Battalion, soldier! Old Meat appeared amused. He simply wouldn't see the obvious. The situation had become truly hopeless. Oatmeal's posture deflated. He sat down on the path as well. Well, how do you intend to get upstairs? Oatmeal demanded. Are you gonna wear a disguise? They'll spot you. The people upstairs think different. They glow. I want to glow too, Meat said softly. He was finished for now. Already, Old Meat's nonsense was beginning to fuck with Oatmeal's head. For an instant, he wondered whether the people upstairs actually did emit visible light. Meat seemed to sense what Oatmeal was thinking. They don't actually glow, he said. It's more like a feeling. Feelings are different kind of real. Oatmeal could not agree with these wishy-washy, silly thoughts. They were weird and uncertain, and they were terra incognita. They made a kind of sense that was dangerous. The people upstairs are magic, he blurted out. It leaks out through their skin. Even without their strange computers and mind tricks, you can easily tell who is and isn't them because they glow. The glow, therefore, proves that they're a different kind of human. Oatmeal stared into Meat's eyes, trying to confirm his answers, feeling something vaguely terrifying welling up inside himself. Meat smiled back dumbly. His chalky eyes went back up to the sky, and Oatmeal's followed. You see that little thin cloud up there? Meat said, pointing. Looks like a serpent. Might just be another moon turd, but a little different, isn't it? Maybe a steam trail from one of the long dragons? They're not from dragons, Meat said. I asked Jens about it. You asked a caseworker a direct question? You're a lunatic! He said it's called a jet stream, Meat said. Every now and then, these things, these jets, they fly around way up in the sky. And here's the thing, just like I told you, they're not animals. They're vehicles. There's people in them. Do you remember the one that shrieked through the sky like 2 days ago? Oatmeal was stunned. He swallowed hard, staring at his dwindling chunk of sausage, then answered firmly, It was a dragon. It was a jet, Meat insisted. They're like flying tanks up in the sky with little people inside. Oatmeal repeated that last sentence back, again and again, hoping Meat would see how ridiculous it sounded. Finally, he tried singing it, clapping his hands vigorously. Big jet, big old jet, Oatmeal shouted. Big dumb silly bears, big old jet. Silly crazy stupid dumb big old silly butt. Big jet, big old jet. He blared laughter at Jet for several seconds. They both felt the magic of the naming song transforming Meat Mugger into Jet, even though nothing actually happened in the physical world. It was usually a joyous occasion to be renamed. But there was no joy in Jet's face now. The hoarse, blaring song caused sadness to well up in Jet's face, and all at once, a horrible realization came over Oatmeal that stopped him dead mid-dance. Oatmeal liked dumb old Jet. He hated him, for sure, but also liked him very much. Too much. Silly bears much. Jet would go crazy and disappear, eaten by the invisible ones or whatever, and Oatmeal would feel sad. Sadness is weakness. A soldier doesn't like people. Silly bears like people. Oatmeal gasped.